fire, 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 fire. Alright, chat, are they gaslighting us? Yes, the answer is yes. If you're a woman, you're being gaslit constantly, all the time. Listen to the mental illness in your head.
Okay, I'm getting the blanket back out for this one because I need to talk about something
She's
that's
so
kind of been
comfy and
bothering
cute,
me.
chat.
A few weeks ago, I was watching the Witcher 4 tech demo at the 2025 State of Unreal, genuinely excited about what I was seeing. And of course, one of the first things that I realized is that Ciri looked incredible.
Yeah, she actually looked like Siri.
Immediately noticed a difference in her design, and I remember thinking, oh wow, they actually listened to fan feedback and refined her design. That's a little bit surprising. Then, not even a few hours later, CD Projekt Red tells press that they hadn't changed her, besides two.
Buddy, her face is literally thinner. What do you mean? It's like someone getting surgery on their face and be like, no, I didn't have anything done to my face recently, no.
Very minor adjustments. And basically that what I was seeing with my own eyes wasn't actually what I was seeing. You know that feeling when someone says or does something right in front of you, and then when you point it out, they look you in the eye and they tell you that it never happened?
Yeah, they gaslight you and girl boss you, just as God intended. Her scar isn't even on the same cheek. Nah, we're gonna have to check that.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like being a gamer in 2025. I think we're all being gaslit pretty hard at this point. The state of the industry as a whole has gotten more and more questionable over the years, but lately it seems like it's all been coming to a head, and over again, I've recognized the pattern of being told that what we're seeing, feeling, and experiencing is actually not the case. This is kind of an important thing, and it matters to me because there used to be a time when you could generally trust what the industry professionals were telling you. When a studio said they hadn't changed something, they hadn't changed it. When they explained why a game underperformed, their reasoning typically aligned with what players were actually experiencing.
Well, the reason they're lying is because admitting that Siri looked a little bit not like Siri and that she was a little bit, you know, choppy around the face will make the Twitter activists upset and be like, why did you cater to the sexist trolls and the stupid stinky idiots that aren't even gonna play the game, even though they totally are, and they're actually gonna buy the game when it comes out, even if it runs like shit. Yo, what up, Dougal?
And when companies talked about their design choices, their explanations felt genuine and transparent. But somewhere along the way, that started to change. Now, I find myself constantly second-guessing official statements and cross-referencing a studio's or journalist's claims with what I can see with my own eyes. And I'm always wondering if there's some other angle or narrative being pushed. The erosion of that basic trust between the gaming industry and us, their audience, that's what really bothers me, because when you don't have that basic foundation, when you feel like you can't trust the people making the games to be honest about the games they're making, everything else starts to crumble. So today,
and again, I think that's the lying because they're too scared to admit that they fucked up. Why would you risk getting the backlash on social media by a bunch of mentally ill people?
we're going to talk about some recent examples of industry gaslighting because I fear the feeling of, I think I'm going crazy, has finally caught up with me. Let's start with the moment that really sparked this whole video and honestly made me question my own eyes. CD Projekt Red delivered a beautiful tech demo that gave us a gorgeous slice of the direction that they're hoping to take with Witcher 4. Kelpie looks like she just got plucked out of Anna Sewell's novel, and the world of the game is absolutely captivating. And yes, they're telling us that the demo is running at 60 FPS with full ray tracing on a base PS5, which is pretty cool, I guess, even though this is just a demo. So after watching this not gameplay of Witcher 4, I was a little bit conflicted. I wanted to be excited, but not too excited, while also being especially cautious. And
you should be skeptical. I'm not convinced that this is gonna be as amazing as Witcher 3 when it came out. I find that if you lay the expectation that it's gonna be either mid or just not that great, and then you turn out to be wrong, I think that's way better than just being hyped up and then being disappointed. I'll just say it.
I'll be playing it on a PC. RIP to any Xbox Series S users. But then I saw Siri and my heart just lifted. I was genuinely kind of in awe of how beautiful she looked. She felt like the Ciri I remembered, the one I'd fallen in love with in Witcher 3, and I thought,
older,
wow,
yeah.
They obviously listened to fans on this, and honestly, I was really grateful and impressed. I thought it was such a smart move to make changes and improve her design, to just have her be more in line with the old look and feel from the previous game. Although I am very sorry to this man who felt differently. But then...
What? Always wanted to play a myth, but they made her more feminine and young. Disappointed? What? She looks... What? This guy's gotta be trolling. He's got fucking follow profile picture.
But then, after fans...
She looks older than the other version. Nah, this guy's trolling.
Began to celebrate and speculate, CD Projekt Red tells the press, "We have not modified Ciri's face." According to them, this was the same model that was used for The Witcher 3, the cinematic reveal trailer from the Game Awards last December, and the new tech demo from earlier this month. They said it was adapted to work with the latest metahuman technology, but that the model was the exact same. And then, after talking about it even further, they almost kind of cautiously admitted that they made slight improvements to her eye area. And then I just sat there squinting at Ciri's face for the next 10 minutes, feeling really dumb and comparing the two like I was going crazy because I thought...
Dude, they literally changed her face shape. What are you fucking talking about? You can't even cope and say it's lighting. You can see her face in full lighting without it being like this. They changed her face shape!
I thought that I could clearly see a pretty big difference. At this point, I've seen all the talking points, even from CD Projekt Red themselves: lighting, camera angles, cinematics versus the tech demo rendering, and yes, those do play a role. And listen, I am not a tech whiz by any means, but the bottom line is that when you put all three pictures up side by side...
Peak Ciri.
Come on. She clearly looks pretty...
And again, she looks matured here, but she doesn't look that different. This one doesn't look like anything like her, in my opinion. Her face is way wider.
Different, right?
Her jaw is huge.
Right? But between the cinematic reveal and this latest version in the tech demo, there have clearly been some changes made, and it's an obvious improvement.
And for the freaking record, if they put Geralt in the game and they made him look different, I would criticize them just as hard.
That we should be celebrating. Now, you might be saying, NPC, is this even that big of a deal? You know what? You're probably right. But here's the thing. I was pretty surprised when they first revealed Ciri's design in the cinematic last year. And I was not alone. There was a whole range of responses. For me, I had no problem with the fact that she is older. And even though I love Geralt,
she doesn't look just older, she looks different.
I also had no problem with him not being the main protagonist. My problem was that her design was just weird. It was just off. It didn't look like the Ciri I had remembered, even with her being aged up. It was like they were randomly trying to give us some new Temu Ciri. And now that she clearly looks different and more like her previous model in such a good way, why are we being told that we're essentially imagining these improvements? I don't know, just take the W. Say, yeah, we worked to refine her look and move on. We're never gonna be mad at you.
They don't care about the goodwill of gamers. They're just trying to pump out a game to, like, you know... Because the gamers aren't going to make Twitter articles and, like, Twitter posts, and Kotaku isn't gonna, like, make posts if they admit to it, man.
For giving a beloved character the Sonic treatment, which, by the way, worked out really well for Paramount. They're literally working on Sonic 4 as I speak, so please make this make sense. CD Projekt Red, your demo looked amazing, and your fans love you and they just want to praise you. Just let them. All right, moving on to BioWare, EA, and Dragon Age the Veilguard, because yes, the horse isn't quite dead enough. This is a perfect textbook example of blame deflection, and I'm still trying to...
Is she gonna bring up the race with the horns? I forget what their names are. Again, I didn't play Dragon Age, but when I was doing research and actually looking into it, the characters of this race with fucking Tosh or Tavash or whatever her name was, yeah, the Kunari, they absolutely changed them to shit to make them look like crap.
Wrap my head around how all of this is played out. So Dragon Age the Veilguard came out last October, a game that could have cost up to $250 million to make, and as we all know, it did not go well, to say the least. Critics and journalists across the board gave this game incredibly high scores. They were eating it up. Some even called it the best in the series, and Metacritic...
That is such an insult compared to all the clips and the dialogue that I saw comparing the two.
Even gave it an 89 with 0 negative reviews, actually. Users, they gave it just a 3.9. That's a pretty huge gap, and now we just have this weird situation where we're told by the industry that this is a great game. I mean, just look at the review scores, but players are having a much different experience, and this whole situation just added more fuel to the fire of gamers not trusting professional reviews. When there's such a massive disconnect between critics and players, what are we supposed to believe? What is the...
Players? Not the journalists that don't even play the freaking game, or they play it for like 3 hours. Unironically, I think that the Twitch streamers are more trustworthy because at least you know the demeanor and what the Twitch streamer likes and doesn't like, as opposed to some random journalist who's probably paid off. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, yeah, Twitch streamers can be paid off too, obviously, sponsorships and all that. But you know what the streamer is like when they don't play the game, so you can kind of trust and use your judgment in that way better than anything else.
Actual truth when it comes to the quality of the game. So all of this went down last October, and it seems like it had pretty much fallen to the wayside, a memory that everyone was just trying to forget until, for whatever reason, multiple reports and articles came out just recently attempting to figure out the real reasons for this game's commercial
Yeah, I actually talked about this.
failure. According to EA's CEO...
Yeah, Saints Row 2022, the remake, was praised like by every single outlet and being like, oh, it's like an 8 out of 10, and then like every single person on YouTube thinks it's dog shit. I would rather take Fleekazoid's word on it because he actually plays video games. These journalists don't fucking play their games that they review. They don't.
Andrew Wilson, the game failed because it didn't resonate with a broad audience that wants shared world features and live services. Okay, I guess I'll have to take your word for it on that one, Andrew. According to Bloomberg, the blame was on the 10-year developmental cycle of pure chaos, including numerous internal pivots.
I totally agree. I think that's a factor, but it's definitely not the only thing. No, I'll give them that. Yeah, absolutely. When it changes hands so many times and the game just has to be put out after 8 to 10 years, which is a really, really long cycle for a game. Absolutely. But it wasn't the only reason it fucking blew ass.
Project shifts and the scrapping of those pesky live service
Return to form,
But
shit.
if you look at what players and many longtime fans of the series had to say, you see a different story. Some of the common criticisms reflect things like lack of player agency, dismissal of established lore, shallow combat systems, unlikable characters, weak storytelling, and yes, poorly written dialogue that felt very preachy.
And really, really boring fucking combat. Really stale. I think Asmund said it a lot. He said it's really fucking boring.
And awkward.
It doesn't feel
so
good.
Many Dragon Age fans have said that it just did not feel like a true Dragon Age game. And this misfire on EA's part directly led to them falling short of their 3 million player target by about
yeah, that's not good, man.
50% after it was reported that only 1.5 million players engaged with the game. Layoffs followed, and EA's been trying really hard for the last 8 months to place the blame somewhere. But instead of listening to legitimate player criticisms or looking at the past 10 years of corporate meddling, their response was to essentially blame the gamers. Whew, there's almost too much gaslighting here to keep track of, but I feel like the facts are pretty clear. EA and BioWare put out a mediocre, at best, game, and their design decisions and motives were just not what the audience was looking for. And then, when the criticisms started rolling in,
And when games release that are for gamers, like Claire Obscure, they get really, really upset and say that, oh, well, you know, it's just a bunch of people that really like a game that was just, like, by chance really good. It doesn't mean anything.
Blamed the audience and said it was their fault. How are we supposed to have honest conversations about what went wrong and how to avoid those mistakes in the future if we can't even agree on reality? But EA's got nothing on Ubisoft. Listen, I used to be a pretty big Ubisoft fan, okay? Assassin's Creed 2, Black Flag, Origins, Far Cry 4, and of course, the one I'm sure you're all thinking of, Just Dance. These games were a
Just Dance fell the fuck off after like 2012. I had a friend that had like all the games. She was really obsessed with it. It definitely fell off a fucking truck when they realized they could milk that shit to high hell.
Huge part of my gaming life. So watching what's happened to this company, it genuinely does hurt to see. Like a tale as old as time, Ubisoft has been struggling after their recent debacles. They unfortunately suffered some pretty big losses after the underperformance of Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws, and what was their response? Well, they of course followed this new industry trend.
It's the Asmongold. It's Asmongold's fault that it failed, yeah. Even though they sponsored Hassan for like $50,000 or some shit, or $30,000 to play it on stream.
Where their CEO blamed the gamers. Now, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this game before it even came out.
Those damn gamers not buying our damn games.
And it was reported that Ubisoft actually had an anti-harassment plan in place when the game launched. It's wild to think that they were literally preparing for backlash before this game even came out. And just to really...
Or you could make a good game. I don't see people, you know, creating harassment campaigns against Expedition 33, 34, 35. Like, I don't get it. What are we doing?
Really quick side note on this. I don't like the attacking or harassment of an individual developer. It's just, it is pretty wild to be in the business of making games for a living. Something that's inherently supposed to be fun and engaging, an escape for consumers, something that for the most part should be a joy to work on. And somehow put yourselves in a situation where you're preparing for backlash over things that you intentionally acknowledged, chose to do, and could have completely avoided.
And to top it off, I don't know if she was gonna bring this up, but they completely fucked up and confused Chinese and Japanese culture. That's so insulting. You took Japanese culture and put it into a game, and then you start confusing it with Chinese and the One Piece statue, and then what other stupid controversy was there? The destroying the temples, the trap music when Yasuke's fighting Japanese officials and stuff and guards, and the Torii gate that was broken, and oh my god, it's just the kanji on the sword that was sent to Japanese streamers. Like, it was like not just one thing; it was several things.
It's like knowing the future, but still making the decisions that led to your death. But yeah, I digress. Ubisoft was a company that used to pride itself on delivering historically accurate and culturally appreciative games. So
it wasn't even that. I disagree. I think Assassin's Creed wasn't extremely historically accurate. They obviously lended itself heavily into the fantasy idea, but at the end of the day, they didn't make it so obnoxious and, like, you know, better than thou, we know better than you what you want, even though you're the customer and you're gonna be buying the game.
The fact that they're the ones that are making these missteps and also having some pretty disappointing responses to their...
Yeah, and again, yeah, the whole, what is it? Yeah, Ubisoft. Assassin's Creed Origins, they did a fantastic job on ancient Egypt. It was still a mediocre game. Assassin's Creed Origins wasn't even that good, but it wasn't, like, terrible like Shadows was.
And also having some pretty disappointing responses to their Japanese community.
Yep.
It feels really bad. I mean, we're talking about a game set in Japan that many Japanese people are clearly not liking. When Shadows was delayed and pre-orders slumped, instead of recognizing legitimate concerns from...
Oh, and cucking Nobunaga's fucking sister, man. That's so funny.
Large portion of the community, including the Japanese community, were recognizing that a lot of fans were calling out and preferring their direct competitor, Ghost of Tsushima. Ubisoft's CEO essentially said gamers were at fault when
When did Ghost of Tsushima come out? It came out 5 freaking years ago. Let's be nice and say it came out 4 years ago. The competitor from 4 years ago. Are we actually trolling? Really?
Star Wars Outlaws sold only 1 million copies in the first month. He had claimed that gamers have extraordinary expectations that are basically impossible to meet, even when
Bro, didn't Balatro, like an indie game made by one guy, like win like several awards and community awards and was like claimed as being like a really goated game, and it was made by one guy? Dude, this guy is an insufferable prick. What is he smoking?
delivering solid quality. Yeah, it's honestly a fascinating timeline here. Pre-launch,
I wish I was this self-absorbed. I'd probably have a better time with my mental health and like being like, oh fuck, maybe I did something wrong today. I called the chatter stupid. I didn't mean that. Like, this guy calls someone stupid and he just never thinks about it ever again. He's like, gamers, they're stupid. I'm just gonna milk them for more money.
we expect some kind of toxic pushback. Post-launch sales dip, gamers complain too much. Investor call, solid quality is not enough. They're shifting the blame at every step, and when leadership reframes lukewarm sales as proof that players are too picky, every critique becomes toxic by default. But is that...
How can you be at a restaurant as a chef and then only like one person comes in to buy a dish and then that person is like, it's mid, and then nobody else comes? How do you as a chef live your life thinking to yourself like, yeah, my food's really good, these fucking customers, they fucking suck?
Really the only option here? Are there no other alternative reasons as to why your game didn't sell as well as you'd hoped? When gamers toxic becomes the default response,
oh, and then the female sumo wrestlers too. That's actually a really good point. I forget where it is, but there's a female sumo wrestler in the game, even though female sumo wrestlers weren't a thing until modern times, basically.
When gamers toxic becomes the default response anytime concerns are raised, it really starts to wear you down. It feels like being told that your years of support and investment in these franchises basically count for nothing, and that it was never to benefit us, it was all for them, the company. And yes, I know, it is a business, and the whole goal for the business is to make money. But it's weird because it's almost like the consumers have no say, that what we want doesn't matter, and we should just appreciate whatever it is that they deem fit to give us.
You gotta eat the slop no matter what. If you don't eat the slop, you're racist, sexist, and homophobic.
That wanting good games makes us the problem. And what happened after all of this? Well, the market responded exactly how you'd expect, and their stock dropped by about 17%. I've never been an EA girl, but for Ubisoft in particular, this cuts even deeper than just normal bad business practices, because just like with my emotions with Nintendo, when you support a company for years and have so many good memories of playing their games, recommending them to friends, watching them repeatedly just turn around and blame you.
It's okay. I'm a Blizzard fangirl, or I was. Like, I don't know. It's my fault. I don't consume Blizzard products anymore, but I hope in my heart sometimes that they can go back to how they were, but I know that's not gonna happen. I feel that so much. What is this dono? Jesus, thank you for the 20 clams! What the frick? Hold on, let me bring it up 1 second. I can't buy these modern slop games. I am non-binary. Okay, man. You stole that one off of Twitter, but thank you for the 20 clams. I appreciate it.
Their fan for their failures
Me too, man.
feels like such a betrayal. This brings me to something I'd like to call the indie reality check. We're seeing massive AAA titles flounder all around us, and yet somehow we're also watching indies and indie-like titles completely blow up and experience huge success. The AAA studios have their ideas for why titles are failing, but when you look at the other side of the coin, the games that are actually winning, it tells a completely different story. And honestly, this gives me hope because it proves that the problem isn't with gamers, it's with the approach. And nobody said this better than Sven Vincke from Larian at the Game Awards in 2023.
Studio made their game because they wanted to make a game that they wanted to play themselves. They understood the value of respect, that if they treated their developers and players well, those same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned.
Can I just say, the last act of Baldur's Gate was really buggy at launch, but barely anybody talked about it because it was fucking good overall. I say it right there. I'm here as a YouTube Annie to say hi to my favorite Weact Slop Fox. Thanks. Thanks for the yummiest Weact Slop I have ever consumed. By the way, about your plush, I know I wait to put her on our shelf. Yo, thank you, DNL. I thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But for real though, like, the best DEI game? Because it wasn't in your fucking face. You could have a girl with a cock and a guy with a vagina in the game and no one batted an eye.
But above all,
and you could fuck a bear.
They cared about their game because they loved games. It's really that simple.
Now, I know Larian technically is no longer an indie studio, but he literally laid out the formula for success. They made a game that they wanted to play themselves. It's really...
Divinity Original Sin 2 was so much better in combat, and I'm tired of saying otherwise. I think Baldur's Gate 3 combat was too rigid because they have to follow Dungeons and Dragons rules. I said it! I said it! I like Divinity Original Sin 2 rules better.
That simple.
It was
the
funner,
people in charge forbade them
creative.
from cramming the game with anything other than a team first, entertainment first,
Doesn't mean it's not
consumer first approach. And they knew that if they did this, then the revenue would inevitably follow. When you focus on making an incredible game first, an engaging world, likable characters that draw you in, fun mechanics, compelling storytelling, and natural character development, the experience is not only fully immersive, but very successful. And when you look at some of the
15 million copies, and this was in 2024, of May of 2024, or sorry, March. It's probably way more than that now, huh? And they released a bunch of really fucking cool updates that were completely free. They could have... Normally, Ubisoft would put that behind a $30 paywall, by the way, or Blizzard. They'd be like, oh, you want to play another class? Ah, you gotta pay fucking $20 to unlock it.
The criticism surrounding Dragon Age the Veilguard and
Crazy.
put it against Baldur's Gate 3, it showed that you can even have more progressive elements in your game without them feeling forced or performative. And their success clearly proves that. Despite what the media might say, no, I don't believe the majority.
Dames 4 Games founder talks backlash against women protagonists. Yeah, because Tomb Raider from 1999, with the PlayStation 1 with her polygon titties, was so fucking hated and totally not gooned over by every single 10 to fucking 31-year-old that could have a fucking PlayStation. 1996. Okay, well, I was close enough. You know, you get my point, though. Like, what the hell?
Of players are a mixture of is and votes. I know everyone has their preferences, but
logic.
Across the board, most gamers can agree that they do not want developers sacrificing quality for messaging. If you've got forced messaging and an obvious lack of quality, you're in trouble because you're clearly not respecting the player, and that respect is so important. Baldur's
And it's also polarizing. I just don't get it. Like, again, at the end of the day, I think it's very funny when these capitalist corpo-borpo attitudes end up biting them in the ass when you're not actually catering to, like, the mass majority that don't give a fuck. Either extreme will obviously still play the game, but it will be a minority.
3 respects the player and their intelligence, and it honestly lets you engage with themes organically and in a way that makes sense. A lot of times when and if you choose to. But Dragon Age tells you what to think.
There were still people that were Russian that played Stalker 2. And there were Ukrainians that played Russian games like Misade. Because they were good games and nobody gave a fuck. It's so cringe. Someone made a joke back, and Atomic Heart. Yeah, people still played Atomic Heart and said, oh, well, it's Russian propaganda. It's like, nobody gives a shit. It was a good game. Who the fuck cares?
think and when to think it. So while AAA companies are telling us that microtransactions, live service elements, and $80 price tags are required, Sven and his team proved that the exact opposite approach works much, much better. Speaking of $80 price tags, allow me to follow up on my Nintendo video for just a minute. Nintendo launched the Switch 2 with marketing about how they've fixed and updated all of the original's problems, and very interestingly, they also noted that the Hall effect precision for the Joy-Cons would not be present for the Switch 2 for whatever reason. But even
what? How do you regress?
with that being the case, they said they had designed these sticks from the ground up to be more durable. And yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, about that.
Some players are already experiencing Joy-Con drift 2.0. There's also been reports of consoles shutting down without low battery warnings due to a bug and just general poorer battery life than anticipated. And Nintendo—
I thought the whole point of the Switch 2 is that it had better battery life than the Switch 1. I'm so glad I didn't buy this garbage, honestly. It's fucking sad.
Nintendo has quietly
so
posted
cringe.
hidden recovery mode fixes and released information on how to patch these issues. Now, when you launch a new and improved console that immediately sees some of the same problems as the previous one, but you've specifically marketed it as having solved those problems, that's just not a good look. But the real gaslighting comes in how they frame any criticism. When fans pointed out that $80 for Mario Kart World, the 16th entry in the franchise—
what are you, poor peasant? Start saving up your McDonald's bucks.
feels
Loser.
excessive, especially when indie studios are delivering fuller experiences for $50. Nintendo's messaging essentially becomes, well, you should be grateful we're giving you anything at all. Doug
Absolutely based. That's so funny, dude. This sounds like an evil villain from a Disney show. Like, well, jeez, you should just be lucky we're feeding you anything at all, idiot.
Bowser literally told consumers who couldn't afford a Switch 2 to
What are you,
just
poor?
buy the original Switch instead. Well, Mr. Bowser, given some of these early hardware issues, you might have helped some people dodge a bullet. Oh, and speaking of Switch 2 demand, someone was apparently so frustrated that they couldn't get one that they hijacked a Nintendo truck and stole over $1.4 million worth of consoles. Which, honestly, I don't know. That just feels like the most Nintendo thing to happen during a console launch. But let's get back on track and talk about some legitimate indie studios who are truly becoming the David to these AAA Goliaths. Sandfall Interactive and Clair Obscur should continue to get all the praise. You might not know this, but they only have 34 core developers working on the game. Yes, the media has begun to try and honestly completely diminish this by making sure to clarify that
That's not realistic, you guys. They made a game in 6 years that was fantastic. No, we have 9,000 employees. We gotta all pay them to do like 10 million different things.
Fall had many other teams who contributed to the success of the game, you know, the same as any other studio, but the facts are still the facts. They only had 34 game developers.
I love this framing too. It wasn't made by 30 people, but that's not the point.
Also seen other indies like Citizen Sleeper, 1000 Resist, and Another Crab's Treasure hitting 1 million in sales with full teams smaller than most AAA marketing departments. Pizza Tower, made by a super small team, has sold over 1 million copies. Hades was made by Supergiant with a team of around 20 and became a cultural phenomenon. Celeste, the beloved platformer that tackled heavy themes, was made by just 7 people. And Gris, the beautiful exploration—
What about Stardew Valley, the one autistic guy that's literally been working on the game for like 13 years or some shit? Yeah, it's possible. Stop being fucking retarded.
Of Grief and Loss was made by less than 20 people,
and
it sold over 3
That's a
million
good
copies at
example,
this
too.
point. These aren't flukes. They're proof that quality has nothing to do with the size of the team. And another great thing about these teams that are pushing boundaries and crafting unique and engaging stories is that, for the most part, indies don't blame audiences when something flops. They don't call their critics toxic.
Yeah, because they can't. They literally can't afford to. What do you mean? They just have to be like, oh shit, it flopped. I guess it wasn't that great. Let's move right along into the next project or whatever.
They just focus on...
Dustborn did? Yeah, Dustborn was also government funded by EU taxpayers as well. Isn't that telling?
Making the best games possible, games that they themselves would love to play. The indie reality check shows us that when developers focus on passion over profit, respect their audience, and prioritize game quality over corporate mandates or checkboxes, success can and hopefully will follow. It shows us that it's not about the size of your team or your budget, it's about your heart and your honesty. Which brings me to one of the most frustrating examples of industry gaslighting, the weaponization of the toxic gamer label. And this was...
Absolutely. Bring back toxic gamer labels. Bring back toxic COD lobbies.
Was brought to the forefront again pretty recently with the release of Stellar Blade on PC. Like its initial launch.
They just love women. They don't care. They just want to look at hot titty women. Yeah.
The PC release has been a massive success. Within the first week, it sold over 1.1 million copies on Steam, and it's now sold over...
No, it's because of all the Koreans buying the game. Yeah, that's the reason.
For 3 million copies across all platforms. But unfortunately, many of our beloved media were not super happy with the protagonist in this game. One journalist...
Sounds kind of racist.
Even called Eve a doll sexualized by someone who had never seen a woman.
Yeah, and then they got proven wrong because the model was in real life really, really hot too. Yeah, it's crazy. Sorry, not everybody's a fat American turd.
He ended up having to issue a full apology after it was said that Eve's design was actually scanned directly from a Korean model. And then, of course, other articles implied that the game's success was just because Eve only catered to the male gaze.
What about my gaze? Like, what about me? I want to look at her ass and her titties. Does this make me sexist? You're a man? Yeah, I guess you're right.
Players, including women, clearly connected with this character in the game, but somehow appreciating the character design became a moral failing. Here's where the gaslighting gets obvious. When games like Outlaws and Forspoken underperform, and when some fans express disappointment about not seeing the return of beloved protagonists like Jin Sakai or Geralt, it's because gamers are sexist and they can't handle female leads. But then we get a very female-focused game with female characters and a very prominent female lead, and it's super successful. I don't know.
People also criticize the whole Sari being at the forefront because of lore reasons. That's not even like that's not even like the whole reason why.
It's not quite as they say. Even with the success of Stellar Blade aside, there are lots of other examples of this. Again, take Claire Obscure as another easy one. It's got a majority female cast, and it's
No, it's got a man at the front, so like it's his harem. And sorry, I'm trying to roleplay being a really stupid journalist. It's a harem roleplay, and he bangs all these chicks, and they're all hypersexualized, even though they're completely covered in like gear. Yeah.
Been praised by every gamer across the board. Or how about one of my personal favorites, a Plague Tale series? And even when I look at upcoming games like Last Sentinel, Tides of Annihilation, Resident Evil 9, or the new female protagonist in the first Berserker Kazan, the community generally...
I'll admit, I think that Kazan wasn't actually that great of a game, but like it was a really cool premise. Yeah, it was a cool premise. I wouldn't say it was slop. I think it was like a, I don't know, like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Wasn't bad.
He seems pretty hyped. These games are getting very positive reception and excitement from the same audience that supposedly is sexist. So how does that work? The pattern is just too clear. According to many of our media and developers, when games with female protagonists succeed, it's to spite gamers. When they fail, it's because of gamers.
Selective,
it just really makes no sense. And like I've said many, many times in multiple videos at this point, gamers love female characters. We just want good ones. Series like Tomb Raider, Metroid, Horizon, Bayonetta, and so many more are all examples of very prominent female characters with massive devoted fan bases. And when the industry deflects legitimate criticism by labeling it as toxicity, it's a perfect way to avoid addressing the real problems with their products. When every piece of feedback gets dismissed as sexism or bigotry, you lose the ability to actually improve.
And then people also get scared of criticizing. Why do you think, okay, you know what, a fun fact? I wanted to do this kind of content from the start, but I was too fucking scared to do it. My first, like, actual criticism of a video game was that Left 4 Dead knockoff. It was that video, the Crope Cat one. I was too scared. I didn't even go that hard, even though in my heart, I know I could have gone 100% harder in hindsight. Yeah, Back 4 Blood, the fucking dog shit ass Left 4 Dead sequel ripoff. Well, not ripoff, but like you get what I'm saying. Like, it was just like, you get afraid of being labeled as like, oh, well, you're just a bitch. Oh, you don't like this game because you don't like minorities or something. And it's like, what? Do you know how devastating that is as like a creator in general, and like having to feel like people will think that, even if that's probably not true?
And more importantly, you lose the trust of people who genuinely want you to
actually.
succeed. It's not about the gender of the protagonist,
I
it's
just
about
hate
the
women.
quality of the character and their ability to resonate with the audience. And we should not be gaslit into thinking that this standard is the problem. At the end of the day, even though some of these examples were a little bit more minor than others, what disappoints me the most about all of this gaslighting is that the majority of us actually want developers to succeed. We want games to succeed. Gaming is the greatest.
Dude, I want nothing more to have the old games that I used to enjoy to become great again. That would be amazing.
Storytelling medium that we have, and when it's done right, nothing else comes close. That's why this industry generates more money than all other forms of entertainment combined. I've loved games my whole life because they've always had the unique ability to just draw me into a story in a way that's so much more powerful than movies or books. And they've introduced me to characters that I still think about so many years later. So please, we are not asking for perfection.
Geralt.
We just want honesty. If you change something to better reflect your audience's wishes, you should feel encouraged to celebrate that, even if it's something very minor. And if your game isn't connecting with consumers, maybe that means you should look at your decisions leading up to the release instead of pointing fingers at us. When games succeed because they give gamers what they want, a lot of times the industry says it's just pandering. And when games fail because they ignore what gamers want, it's
and also are completely terrible. Man, Star Wars Outlaws was literally unplayable, and the dialogue felt like it was written by a fucking AI. But no, it's because it's a female character at the forefront. It's like a shield, man. And again, if I pulled up my shield wall and every time someone criticized me, it's like, oh, well, this is because I'm a woman, isn't it? Someone in my chat said I'm stupid. Oh, it must be because you hate women. Imagine how fucking stupid I'd sound after like fucking 5 or 6 times of defending myself like that.
Our fault for being too demanding. It's all a bit exhausting and it makes no sense, and we're tired of pretending that it does. We love this medium because it lets us live stories. We'll happily pay for greatness, but when you shrug off quality control, raise prices mid-generation, insult us, and then somehow spin the blame back on us, it feels like some sort of weird emotional whiplash, and
then you have the gall to blame indie games or games that aren't made by AAA studios that you monopolize and essentially buy out at this point, because every single studio that you try and suck into your fucking sphere gets killed. Like, it's so annoying to hear that shit. Again, Sony's done it, Microsoft's done it, Ubisoft's done it. They have taken so many studios and destroyed them.
As the audience, as the customer, just want better. For us, for the developers, for the games, we just want better. Even though it's been a rough few years, I still believe this industry and its leaders can turn things around. We've been seeing it happen more and more recently, and it feels like there might be a real shift starting. Because when studios are passionate about their vision and truly respect their audience, lightning strikes and magic can happen. But it starts with honest conversations and mutual respect. We are not your enemies. We're actually your biggest cheerleaders. We just need you to trust that we want the same thing as you.
They don't care.
Great games. Thanks so much for making it to the end of this video, and look at this! First and foremost, I want to thank you all so much for being here, and I hope that my 300 Spartans are still here and can see just how far we've come.
This is where we hold them! This is where we fight!
We've got an army of almost 160,000 strong
That's
now.
crazy.
This channel really is dedicated to the hope that we can just get back to the real heart of games, that player joy can be brought back to the forefront, and we can all start to really love this medium again. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about all of this. Has the industry been gaslighting you too, or are you wise beyond your years? Either way, the more we call out this kind of behavior, the harder it becomes for them to get away with it. Thank you again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.
Bye! She's so cool. She has a nice voice. Very wise. Well, that dent in my head is for occupying... It's occupied with all the wisdom that I carry. But, just before we go, indie games can be disgusting slop.
Anyway, I can't believe why they made this game in the first place. But we have a trick up our sleeve. Kid, let's trigger ourselves. We can use trigger to increase attack power against robots.
Your failure.
We've learned how to cancel someone. Cancel will allow us to isolate people from their friends and compatriots in battle.
You've been canceled.
This could be a useful tool against... I have to play... I'm so sad that other games have come out, because this game would be so fucking fun to play. So I saw a clip of this game.
Fella you're with, the black kid?
This is real, by the way.
Dresses like a writer. Does he know anything?
You are racist.
They seem super weird about race. Think we can capitalize on that anxiety? Look at her face. Like, it's nuts. Like, who...
This is what happens when a Blue Sky user has to read an opinion on Twitter. Oh my god, their like veins in their head like bulge, and their like their blood pressure goes up.
Does it? Like, what a perfect game? How do you even think of doing this? It's like this got focus
It's
grouped on Twitter.
role-playing.
It's like a quick time event to say somebody's a racist. Dustborn was funded by European money, aka the people's paying taxes. Yeah, but how much money though?
Yeah, euros, $150,000. Instead of going into the roads in Romania, they're going towards Dustborn.
$150,000.
Jesus Christ.
Why? Why would you give them, like, who's making these decisions?
Oh my lord, man. Tomix, thank you for paying for Dustborn. You guys are so mean. EU brothers and sisters, know that your paycheck went into dustbin and nobody bought that shit. That was great. That was a great video.